Kasamarda, botanical origin, Cassia occidentalis Linn. Family, Leguminosae, Casalpinoideae. Sanskrit synonyms, Kasamarda, Kalkashunda, Aramarda, Kasari, Karkasha. Regional names, Bengali, Kalkasunda, Kalika Sundarpada, Kalika, Kasanda, Gujarati. Kasundari, Kuji, Kasundari, Kasundarana, Pandada, Hindi, Kasudi, Kasinda, Kasandi. Chakori, Kannad, Kasavandi, Alahadi, Alyabari, Malayalam, Punabir, Natram Takara. Marathi, Kasavarda, Kasavinda, Rankasavinda, Punjabi. Thanachitra, Tamil, Nadam Takarai. Parts used, root, stem, leaves. Properties and uses. The drug Kasamarda is used in the indigenous system of medicine since long time. Charak mentioned its use for curing cough. It has been mentioned in various Nyantispas, Ragnigantu, Donwantari, Bhavaprakasha, Rajbalaba and others as bitter, sweet, light, hot, appetizer, aphrodisiac, stomachic and diuretic. It increases digestive power and clears the obstruction of the throat. It cures cough, indigestion, toxicosis and impurity of blood, diseases due to the vitiation of vata. Pitta and kapha are dispelled by the use of this drug. The seeds are called as Negro coffee and are employed in France and in the West Indies as a febrifuge. The whole plant is purgative. In the West Indies, the root is considered diuretic and the leaves taken internally and applied externally are given in cases of itch and other cutaneous disease both to men and animals. The Negroes apply leaves, smeared with grease to slight sores, as a plaster. The alcoholic ether-soluble fraction 100 mg gave good diuretic response in anesthetized and hydrated dogs by and Chuth. 1957, both Cassia occidentalis and C. sophrolin are equated as Kasamarda, while C. sophrolin is indigenous to India and C. occidentalis Linn, which is more common and widely distributed, is considered to have been introduced. Botanical description. It is a fairly large, strongly offensive odorous, sublabrous to smooth-branched, erect or diffuse, usually annually woody herb, 1.5 meters high, bearing long petiolate, alternate, stipulate, peripinnate leaves, 15 to 20 centimeters long. The petiole with a single gland at its base, leaflets opposite, short-stalked, ovate, oblong to ovate lanceolate, acute or acuminate, mostly glabrous, to 0.5 to 7.5 centimeters long. Flowers yellowish. Ranged in axillary peduncles or towards the top in terminal panicles and slightly falcate. Compressed, transversely septate, many-seeded pods, 10 to 12 or more and calamal. 1964. Distribution. The plant is found throughout India from the Himalayas to Kanyakumari. The plants spring up abundantly after the rains nearly everywhere on wastelands as well as rubbish heaps. Though a very common plant and found growing in almost all places, it is not considered truly indigenous by some authorities. It is also opined as introduced from America. Cultivation. Since it is found growing wild throughout the India, no cultivation is done. Macroscopical characters. Root. The plant has a well-developed root system. The taproot measures 15 to 25 centimeters in length and 115 cm in diameter. At the upper extremity they are cylindrical and tapering, bearing a few lateral branches and many rootless. Surface is rough due to presence of many transversely running lenticles and a few root scars of fallen roots. It is dark brown in color externally and creamy internally. Fracture is hard and fibrous. The root possesses characteristic odor and acrid taste. A transversely cut surface shows a thin cork followed by narrow phalloderm and phloem and a very wide xylem, the phalloderm being isolated or in small or large groups. STM. Stem is erect, 1 to 2 meters long, 0.5 to 1.5 centimeter in thickness at its basal region, branching at nodes spirally. Young stem is green in color and furrowed, while the mature stem is light brown to dark in color. Branches many, ascending, flexuose, smooth, showing dark purplish-green color on their surface. The internodes are 2 to 4 centimeters long. Leaf and leaflets. The leaves are compound, pinnate, 9 to 13 to 20 centimeters long, petiolate, petiole rachis pulvinate, grooved or nearly round, glabrous, 5 to 12 centimeters long, showing dark purplish color in the grooved portion and greenish on the opposite side. Leaflets 3 to 5 pairs, opposite, unequal, the lowermost smallest and ovate, the superior ones longer, 2.5 to 8 centimeters, broad, very short stalk, ovate, oblong to ovate, lanceolate, acute or acuminate, base usually rounded and somewhat oblique, glabrous above and pubescent beneath. The leaves possess a very fotid odor, prakosh and pracid. 1974. Microscopical characters. A transverse section of the young primary root fig. 1 and 2 shows a single layered epidermis composed of cubical cells, slightly arched outside. It is followed by 4 to 6 layers of cortical parenchyma, which are thin-walled and cellulosic. The innermost layer of the cortex is the endodermis, which encloses a single layered pericycle and a tetrarch stele. The secondary growth starts in the usual way and a central cylinder of wood encircled by a narrow phloem ring is produced. When the secondary growth has advanced to some extent, the phalangen formation takes place in the pericycle, which cuts off cork cells on the outside and phalanderm cells on its inner side. Soon tissues outside the cork ruptures at places and finally peel off. In a mature root, the cork consists of 7 to 12 layers of narrow, rectangular and tangentially elongated cells, which get compressed. The phalanderm is a narrow zone represented by 10 to 14 layers of parenchymatous cells which get somewhat flattened with increase in secondary growth. Small strands of fibers are dispersed in this region. These fibers are sometimes isolated or in small groups, especially in the outer phalanderm. These fibers are thick-walled, lignified, usually long, nearly short fig, 6 meters 6 and have tapering, twisted, blunt or saw-like ends. The secondary phloem, which is also a compressed zone fig, 4b, consists of sieve tubes, companion cells and phloem parenchyma, traversed by medullary rays. The wood is composed of vessels, tracheids, fibers, fiber tracheids and xylem parenchyma. Traversed by medullary rays, all the xylem elements are fairly thick-walled and lignified. The vessels occur singly or in short radial groups of 2 to 3, but rarely in larger groups of more than 3. They are usually long, cylindrical, sometimes short, narrow and drum-shaped with numerous simple pits and transverse to oblique articulations. Plate 2. Microscopical character of root of Cassia occidentalis. Linn. Fig.1. Ts of the young root diagrammatic. Fig.2. Details in T.S. of a portion of Fig. 1. Fig.3. Ts of the mature root diagrammatic. Fig. 4a. Details in T.S. of a portion of Fig. 3 showing cork 2. Phalanderm region. Fig.4b. Details in T.S. of a portion of Fig. 3 showing phalanderm to xylem parenchyma. Fig.4c. Details in T.S. of a portion of Fig.3 showing middle region of parenchyma. Fig. 4d. Details in T.S. of a portion of Fig.3 showing central xylem parenchyma region. Drum-shaped with numerous simple pits and transverse to oblique articulations. A few xylem vessels are much elongated at one end, giving a tail-like projection. The tracheids are generally short, having bordered pits with sharp tapering or blunt ends. The fibers are elongated, moderately thick-walled with wide lumen and tapering, sharp-pointed extremities. The medullary rays are 1 to 2 cells wide and 4 to 15 cells high, but the uniseriate rays are more common. The ray cells in transverse section Fig. 4c are rectangular and radially elongated in the xylem region, but are bigger and are slightly tangentially elongated in the phloem Fig. 4b, prakosh and pracid. 1974. Stem. The young stem shows a single layered epidermis composed of thin-walled cells covered externally by a thin cuticle. The cortex is composed of 8 to 14 layers of collenchymatous cells followed by 2 to 6 layers of parenchymatous cells. Endodermis is single-layered and parenchymatous encircling the pericycle. Prismatic as well as rosette crystals of calcium oxalate are present in many cortical cells including endodermis, which shows the presence of only prismatic crystals. Each vascular bundle is capped by pericyle, which is represented in early stages by parenchymatous cells. Later many of these cells become thick-walled and lignified and give rise to fibers and stone cells. The two elements alternate with each other. The phloem consists of strands of sieve tubes and companion cells distributed in phloem parenchyma, and the xylem is composed mainly of xylem vessels and xylem parenchyma. The vessels are arranged radially in groups of 3 to 4. The center is occupied by pith, which is composed of thin-walled cellulosic parenchyma. The phalangen arises in the outermost layer of the cortex. It produces a narrow cork which is represented by 3 to 4 layers of tangentially elongated cells. The phalanderm is 6 to 10 layers of cells wide and the cells are usually radially arranged. The endodermis shows 1 to 2 radial wall formation in some of its cells. As the secondary growth proceeds, bigger strands of stone cells are formed in parenchyma between the strands of pericycle fibers, so that in a mature stem a composite ring of pericycle, represented by fibers, stone cells and cellulosic parenchyma is formed enclosing a continuous stele. The secondary phloem is represented by sieve tubes, companion cells and phloem parenchyma traversed by medullary rays. Cambium is distinct and 3 to 6 cells wide. The xylem consists of vessels, tracheids, fibers, xylem parenchyma and medullary rays. The vessels are usually cylindrical, some being elongated at one or both ends with numerous simple pits and transverse to oblique articulations. The tracheids are long with tapering or blunt ends having bordered pits on their walls. The xylem fibers are long or short with tapering ends and wide lumen. Calcium oxalate as prisms and rosettes are present in a few parenchyma cells of cortex, phloem encoding medullary rays and pith. LAF petiole. The transverse section of petiole shows great variation in the shapes and internal structure. At the tip of lamina, it is cone-shaped with sharp ventral and the shape becomes almost circular. There is a single layered epidermis groove but proceeding towards the base. Ventral groove gradually disappears. Bundles are 5 to 8 in number and arranged in a ring. The apical region is followed by a wide cortex consisting of parenchymatous cells. Vascular petiole shows 8 vascular bundles, but coming towards its base a gradual fusion of these vascular bundles takes place. Each of the vascular bundles is capped with sclerenchymatous tissue. Leaflet. The leaflet is dorsiventral in structure, the mesophyll being differentiated into palisade and spongy tissue. The upper epidermis is covered externally with moderately thick cuticle having horn-like glandular trichomes in transverse section. The epidermal cells are tangentially elongated and measure 20-31-35 by 13-17-20 miculans. The cells of the lower epidermis are somewhat rectangular in shape and arched outside and are smaller than those of the upper epidermis in surface view. The cells of both the epidermises have straight or slightly sinuous walls. The epidermal cells of the margin region shows uniformity in shape and are smaller in dimension. Cells below the epidermis in the margin region are coloncomatous. Stomata of the rubiaceous type are present on both the surfaces, but they are less abundant on the upper surface than the lower one. The palisade tissue consists of 1 and, at places, 2 layers of closely packed cells which measure 606,366 by 579 microns. The spongy mesophyll present beneath the palisade laser consists of 2 to 7 layers of loosely arranged cells. Chloroplasts are present in abundance in the mesophyll cells. The bigger veins have a structure resembling that of the midrib and the phloem surrounds the xylem. Dorsally, a transverse section. The midrib region shows a prominent projection on the lower surface. The epidermis is single-layered, composed of small cells as compared to those in the lamina region. The epidermis cells of the dorsal side are smaller than those on the ventral or upper side. It is covered externally by moderately thick cuticle. Above the lower epidermis there is 1 to 2 layers of coloncomatous cells followed by 4-6 layers of parenchymatous cells with intercellular spaces. The parenchyma cells become gradually smaller in the inner region adjacent to vascular tissue.